told you that I never would. I told you I changed.
Okay, in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, the notice requirements have been satisfied. The meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center, and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Omar, could I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Day?
Here.
Councilmember Grossman?
Here.
Councilmember Menon?
Here.
Councilmember Michaels?
Present.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor?
Here.
Councilmember Park?
Here.
Mayor Zena?
Here. Okay, the first item on the agenda, I'm going to read very happily the Juneteenth proclamation. Okay, whereas President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, declaring the slaves in Confederate territory free, paving the way for the passing of the 13th Amendment, which formally abolished slavery in the United States of America. And whereas word about the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation was delayed some 2½ years to June 19th, 1865, in reaching authorities and African Americans in the South and Southwestern United States. And whereas June 19th has a special meaning to African Americans and is called Juneteenth, combining the words June and 19th, and has been celebrated by the African American community for over 150 years. And whereas the borough of Tenafly recognizes Juneteenth as an important part of our nation's history, and in particular a landmark event in putting an end to the enslavement of African Americans, and whereas there is still a lot that needs to be done to educate the public about the disparate treatment of Americans based on race by unequal enforcement of laws. Now, therefore, I, Mark Zena, Mayor of the Borough of Tenafly, New Jersey, do hereby declare Juneteenth 2023 in the Borough of Tenafly and urge all citizens to become more aware of the significance of this celebration in African American history and in the heritage of our nation, state, and town. Okay, thank you. All right. Next on the agenda is to be considered, we'll do the Froggy Park sign first, and I'll beg the council's indulgence that we have an item under to be considered regarding pickleball that Councilman Grossman put on the agenda that will move to the second item to be considered. Omar, you have a question?
Yes.
Seems a little darker than usual, right?
I see darker.
I think maybe the lights around the corner or something.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
And just so you know, Mayor, I have issues with the TV, so it's not projecting on the TV. but
Can we hear people?
We can hear people in this broadcast.
Okay, so Jimmy, can you hear us?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, yes, we can hear you. Okay,
Yes, they can see us.
they can see us, okay. All right, let's do the Froggy Park sign, then we're going to get to pickleball right away. Okay, Froggy Park sign. If we could just turn all the cell phone volume to Zoom.
And the sign for there was ordered in a couple weeks for installation. The second part of this is replacing the sign. This was, kind of what that has its useful life. So we got it approved to release the sign for our marketing branding efforts.
Jimmy, can you speak up a little bit?
It's not that, it's coming out of the computer versus out of the real system.
Here, it's not coming out of this. Can you fix that? It's not coming out of our speakers. Sorry, the administrator's under the weather, so we're just having a little technical glitch here. Apologize for the delay.
It would normally go through the TV, but the TV's not connected.
Okay. All right. Can you, hey, Jimmy? Wendy's going to give you a call from her phone, put you on speakerphone, you'll probably come through better, okay? So hang up where you are, and she's going to give you a buzz.
All right, Jimmy.
Okay, so the council has set aside funds to replace the spinner at Froggy Park as well as the sign. The spinner should be in a few weeks. And now with the branding efforts, the new logos for the borough and branding, we wanted to show the proof for the council for their approval if they're approving of the new designs, include the new logo. We're happy to take any feedback.
Okay, so you need a consensus from the council tonight on what we see here, right?
Correct. You should have the colored versions, just outlining everything. I know there was questions initially about the white background. If it would become dirty or too much for maintenance to be cleaned. This is, it's no issue on the public works manual. Again, this is a design that's for consideration. We can take any feedback from the council on it.
Okay, Councilman Lauren, your hands up first.
This is an Adam question. Adam, is this the words Froggy Park, that's the font we're going with throughout?
Yeah, so it's good. So thanks to Jimmy and Mike Cassidy, we reviewed it. They actually stole with pride, as they should, the new logo. So I think it's pretty good. But yes, thanks to Jimmy and DPW Director Cassidy for doing that.
Any other questions or comments from council members? So, Jimmy, it sounds like you're good to go on this as it is.
Great, perfect.
All right, do you need any other answers, or you've got everything you need on this topic?
No, we're good.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for that. Thank you, council members. Okay, we're going to move for the good of the order, pickleball, right up to this location now in Mead. Jeff, you put this on the agenda. Do you want to start the conversation, please?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, everyone who has shown up tonight. This is fantastic. So, full disclosure, I haven't yet started to play pickleball. My bad. But going around the town and through emails and just different people talking to me about it, I am amazed and impressed by the growth of pickleball. I know it is the fastest growing sport in America because I've now been researching it, also trying to learn the rules. As the fastest growing sport in America, there are very few courts that are usable in this immediate vicinity. The ones I've heard most frequently are Wyckoff, Haworth, Fort Lee, Overpeck. I know there's some at the JCC, but I don't know how accessible all these are. We did put in a small little pickleball on one of the tennis courts. The court is cracked, really cracked, and I know from doing racket sports of all sorts, any crack is a no-go for a court.
It's a mess also.
And the paint, I don't know, we got to stop giving the kid the crayon to draw the court. So I think I put it on to be considered because I think this council really needs to consider the fastest growing sport in America, where we have a lot of people in the community who are dying to play. I also heard that Wyckoff has over 1,000 members signed in on some of the sites. That's a lot of people. I'd rather they come to Tenafly. I'd rather our citizens not leave Tenafly. So what I'm asking is, as we go forward, especially fixing up the court that's currently there, and then we are talking about what to do with the skate park. We've applied to the county for money. This would be an ideal place. We could probably, without even sweating, put 4 pickleball courts in there.
At the skate park, at the old skate park.
At the old skate park. So I would like the council to consider this. That's why I put it for the good of the order, and I know we have people who are far more knowledgeable about pickleball who might want to weigh in, but I appreciate all of their educating me on this.
Julie?
Yeah, this is probably a question for the audience, but so just from my knowledge, I understand that the lines of the pickleball court, there's like a double usage, right? It's the same size as a tennis court, or no? So then, but you can use a tennis court if you put the pickleball lines there too, right? So the reason
So Julie, I'm going to interject for a second. Okay, so none of the members of the council play pickleball, is that
I have
So,
My parents have
all
already
right.
proposed
I understand.
anybody here.
All right, so let me get my sentence out here. So if I can get a motion from the council to allow public comments on pickleball only right now?
So-
Can I get a second?
Second.
Or everybody's in favor of that? Okay, who is the most expert person on pickleball out here who would like to come up and speak for a few minutes, because the council might have some questions?
We also have some people online who are
Okay, or
very
people-
knowledgeable as well, because,
Yeah.
we're kind of, well, but they should have the right to speak.
No, they absolutely have the right to speak.
Yeah,
So
it's just hard to hear.
would someone like,
I would like to ask something.
please come up to the mic. Okay,
I want to say, first, they all want to talk.
that's fine. That's why we're going to open public comment on this. No one's excluded. All right, just give us your name and your address, please.
51 Conrad.
Thank you. Go ahead.
It's 29 years. And what Jeff was saying is true. I run there's probably over 13 weeks for all these towns. Some of them are very expensive, some of them you can't get in, some of them have only times for residents, and we're all driving really far. The court that you have right now is not safe. It's cracked, the lines aren't straight, and I believe it's 8 months. With the one person in town who draw lines in out. Now, that's not easy to understand. So another whole aspect of the pickleball community where I have seen is when you go to another community, and White Oak is probably one of the biggest ones around here, you can go there on Saturday morning, there'll be 40 to 50 people playing. You put down 2 paddles, next 2 play, next 2 play. You're meeting people, you're playing all levels, there's an advanced course you want to be. So I've been on course with people from the age of like 18 to 90. So a lot of us here, and some of us haven't seen a long time, this segment, I got our football course actually, right? We don't let people through schools, through activities after school. This is a sense of community that Tenafly doesn't have. Where people start going and, the supermarket goes, oh, it's going to football court. Oh, when are you going back? And we need that.
Can I just add?
Sure,
so you-
ask a question, go
right,
ahead.
so you don't have to convince me about pickleball. My best friend is avid pickleball player. But I did just have some questions though. So I also personally don't have a problem with that space we're talking about with the old skate park gym. So, but back to my question about lines. We have a lot of tennis players as well. Is it possible also to use tennis courts as pickleball courts? Just trying to figure out the spaces that we have. That's the question.
Would you mind coming up to the mic, please? Yeah, we just have to do we have to do one at a time to keep it organized. Step up to the mic and just give us your name and address, please.
Educate me.
Just step up to the mic, speak.
I'm Lucy, 45 Lawrence Parkway. You can actually put 2 pickleball courts on 1 tennis court. It's a little bit lower net. You kind of really want to contain it, otherwise the ball just go all over the place. What do you want to say?
So I guess the question that might come up is if we have tennis courts as well, you're saying that there would not be places you'd also want to put pickleball court
I
lines?
mean, ideally, if you're going to create a space just for pickleball, if you have a lot of tennis courts, it would be ideal to have designated pickleball courts.
I think, I think everyone agrees that this is certainly something we want to do. Love the excitement, know a bit about it. We just have to figure out the best place. One thing that was just brought up, nonchalantly, is our existing tennis courts have cracks everywhere. It sounds like one of the things we should be doing is making sure that all the courts are well maintained, and then figure out how to do it. We should probably work with Jamie, the director of recreation, for where's the best place to
I
put
mean,
it.
if you go to Port Lee and see their courts, those are beautiful. Those are really fun, and then you can also do portable nets, which got harnessed.
Another thing we can do, again, we have the old pool club as well, which is something that the council said that they want to redevelop.
The nice thing about
There as well.
skate park though is that it's so near town that if people do want to go and play afterwards, they can walk into town. That. And it doesn't disrupt anyone. The noise is not going to affect anybody. We're not going to get complaints because it's not their inherent.
Yeah. No, fully for it.
Okay. Benoit?
Yeah, and this may not be a question for either of you, more, you know, just, and it would be a little bit nice if the recreation director was here, but do we have a sense of, we know there's 1,000 people in Wyckoff, but do we have a sense of the numbers of people in Tenafly? I understand the excitement, you know, this is something that always comes up.
If I can just, so the 1,000,
you know.
the 1,000 aren't actually.
One thing, let me finish.
Okay.
Yeah, so this comes up when we have discussions about the skate park, and, you know, there's a lot of different numbers being thrown around for who will use the skate park, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, it would be nice to get actual numbers of usage and, you know, and growth percentage in Tenafly, not nationwide. You know, and again, this isn't for anybody out in the audience, unless you're an expert on this, but just wanted to reach out.
Jeff, go ahead, and then, Ms. Wilma, let's hit the microphone.
So all I was gonna say, and I'm sorry for jumping, the number that I understand is not from Wyckoff. They play at Wyckoff. A lot of them are from Tenafly and other towns. They go there, and so they've got a list of people who go into things like this Teen Reach or things like that. 1,000 people, and that includes a lot of people from here. So I think we do have an interesting mix.
Yeah, so, and the other reason I'm asking this question, you know, is it a case of, you know, we've got 50 enthusiastic people and they can use 2 courts and that'll be enough? Or do we need, you know, 8 courts, 20 courts? You know, it helps to kind of get an idea of how big the sport is within Tenafly. We don't want to get worried about people coming into other towns necessarily. But you know, within Tenafly, we can know how many sports there, how many typical sports we're talking about.
Okay, Mary Beth, you were at the mic first.
Mary Beth Wilmette, 22 Highway. I just wanted to comment. I actually belong to the Hallwork because Tenafly does not have any kind of open court. In the way Hallwork did it, and what they're doing right now, I think is something Tenafly should consider. So Hallwork residents pay $75 for the season. Outside people pay $150 for the season. They use all that money in dedicated. They have 3 kind of courts with movable nets right now. But what they're doing is they're using the funds, they're building 2 dedicated courts, which I think are going to be done this fall now. But so they've raised the money completely, I don't believe any additional taxpayer money was used. They've used the money from the fees that they're charging the people who play pickleball, again, residents, obviously, rightly so, have a greatly reduced fee, but they're allowing outside people in for the courts that they have to allow it to be self-sustaining, and not only self-sustaining, but growth. So, again, it's something to consider about, I know we're always looking at the economics of things, rightly so, but again, it's something else to think about. We talked about, well, how many people are interested. Well, did we ever think about doing something private fundraising to speed up the process? Because I know we're looking for grants or things like that. You know, I may be moved out of town on the time we have dedicated to the law. It's just speculating. But so I mean, I think for economics of it, I know that that's always an overriding concern. And again, as a taxpayer, happy that that is. But to think about some of the things that other places are doing to facilitate doing it. And again, you know, to your point, I don't know how many people in Tenafly, but based on the number of Tenafly people who are on the wait list alone in the Hallwork, I don't think you have a problem filling, you know, however many courts at this point you could put into play.
You're not making much of a leap of faith to believe that pickleball is only going to get more popular. There's 100 reports as to why it's better.
Well, I mean, during right now, the past month, I was going to clinics from up in Old Japan, so yet another place with pickleball courts, and they filled all their clinics and had wait lists again for their clinics for the beginners. So again, I don't think we get a lot of Tenafly people who are up there at all those clinics, so that's all the beginners who are all looking to be pickleball players and all looking to join places. Right now, there's a huge wait list at Hallwork, so you can't even get in. Again, I have explored other places, I'm not familiar with Wyckoff, but Again, we have obviously private JCC has some, but you can't, unless you're a member of the JCC or going as a guest of a member of the JCC, that's not open to everyone, and a lot of people don't want to spend the money to join the JCC just to be involved. So, just my opinion and my experience from the local community.
Lauren, go ahead.
So, first of all, I want to say thank you to everyone who came out tonight, because I think we need more recreation. I think we need more diversified recreation. It's been something I've been saying for years. And I wanted to respond to something Mary Beth said about the economics. We are sitting on open space money designated for open space and recreation and green spaces. It doesn't take a year. We can approve it within the time limit it is to put the ordinance on for open space and spend the money. We need to find a designated space in town to do this, and I am all for this project, and I think I play pickleball. I'm terrible at it. Someone has to teach me, but I will tell you the tennis courts, I agree with you, are not the right location for it. I like the idea of a designated space. We can afford the designated space. I think the concept of enclosing the space is incredibly important for this sport and for safety. Excuse me. If we are playing pickleball and tennis right next to each other, I think that's a mistake, given the way that each sport plays. And so again, I implore you, I'm coming off council, but as a group here today, please remember, this council refuses to spend its open space money. This council has the right to do it. They've collected these taxes from you, put it aside for recreation, and refuse to spend it. So please continue to advocate for this sport, continue to advocate for recreation.
Why don't you come to the mic?
Thank you. My name is Jeff Levine. I've lived on Hillcrest Road in Tenafly for about 35 years. And I have all my stuff on this little sticker pad.
Take
but
your
I
time.
think it pretty much covered everything. So I can go sit down?
You can do whatever you want.
No, about a year ago, I organized like an ad hoc game in Tenafly. And I'd say 3/4 of the people here showed up, and I did it on a Facebook page. And I said, do you know that there's a new pickleball court in Tenafly? And I said, let's just have everyone who wants to play show up at 10 o'clock on Saturday. Like I said, almost everyone in the room showed up. And I got subsequent messages after that for weeks. Do you do lessons? Where else can I play? When can I play? Where are the courts in Tenafly? On and on and on and on. There's also courts in Cresskill, Fairlawn, Over Park, Haworth, all over now. They're sprouting up. And about a month ago, I went to the rec office and I said, what's the status of the new pickleball courts I heard they were building? And the answer was, well, no one uses the court that's there now.
Adam, go ahead. Wait, Adam has a comment for you, I think, or a question. Go ahead.
No, please go on.
No, and one other thing that Laura said too. I retired maybe 4 years ago, and everyone that retires said, what the hell am I going to do now? So I started playing, did a number of other things. I started playing pickleball, and I met so many wonderful people. Half of them are here now.
It's great.
But we don't play in Tenafly most of the time. We'd rather play here and build camaraderie, like Laura said, within the community than traveling 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be a wonderful thing for the community to do this, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Adam, and then I believe Barry Gold, thank you for your comments. Barry,
I was just, again,
okay, Adam first, then Barry Goldman, who's on Zoom, wants to speak.
I mean, again, we can keep going on this. It sounds like a majority of the council would like, we could ask, I would argue Jimmy and Jamie, our head of recreation, to come to the next meeting with 3 potential places that we can do it, and then understand what it is. Again,
Okay.
similar to Lauren, we have the money for it.
Of course
It's not
we
a
do.
huge expense.
Right.
It's just a matter of where, and let Jamie and Jimmy tell us.
All right, so let's hear, I know Mr. Goldman has his hand up. Barry, can you hear me? Can you hear us? If, go ahead, make your comments or questions as you'd like.
With some of the people who spoke earlier, but I advocate for dedicated pickleball courts within the town so that there are no arguments between pickleball players and tennis players as to who has the courts. I also like to point out that pickleball is sort of an all-inclusive sport. A lot of times it's played, the best analogy is like pickup basketball, where people will just show up at the courts and get a game, as opposed to going with a group of 4 or a group of 5 to have a game. So you show up and it's like next up gets on the court. Sometimes if there are multiple courts, they'll have strong players on a couple of courts and other weaker players on other courts, so that people can get competitive games within their level. If we have courts where the skate park was, you would get a lot of people coming in to town from within Tenafly and outside of Tenafly to play, and then they would patronize the local restaurants and stores, because people will buy coffee before they play. They'll go out to lunch afterwards. They'll say, let's go play, and then we'll go grab lunch or go grab dinner. And so having pickleball where the skate park was will also alleviate the concern that pickleball courts near houses get complaints from the residents about the ping, 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 because when you have multiple courts side by side, you can hear that noise, and you want it in a location that isn't near residential, near houses. Whiteball is probably the best area location around that has, I should say, the best setup, where they have 4 tennis courts, where they have 2 pickleball courts drawn on each of those tennis courts. They're used every day. There are, in a non-town sponsored app called Team Reach, there are over 1,100 pickleball players who are registered on that app that will indicate whether or not they're going to the courts on any given day in the scheduling. And we could have something like that in eastern Bergen County. Again, where people say, who's going, make sure there's enough players per game, are the courts wet, are they dry, how crowded are they, etc. And so I would just advocate for dedicated pickleball courts in a central location, and I think it would bring business to our local restaurants and perhaps to other stores, and it's also a social sport where people will make new friendships, very easily by putting together on the pickleball courts. And I've been a resident of Tenafly for 34 years, and my kids have all played tennis. I didn't, but I have gotten into pickleball in the last 6 or 7 years, and try and play regularly almost every day.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Barry. Appreciate it. Lauren, then John. Good. Lauren, Julie, then John.
One of the things that I'm hearing, that's so essential to the sport is the ability to show up to the courts. I got a text over the weekend from someone's parents that were visiting that were diehard pickleball players and said, we can't get into the pickleball court, it's locked. How do we make a reservation? I said, well, I wrote back, I said, I believe you have to make it through recreation. They said, but it's the weekend and no one's there. And so our system is not working for us, even with our existing courts. So I just want to make us aware of that aspect.
Julie, then Jeff. Julie, then John.
Okay, so my question just had to do with the location that we do, so I don't really hear much conflict on the council at all. I know Councilman Grossman brought this up, specifically looking at that area that was the old skate park, and we've certainly heard it from a lot of residents as well. My question was, with the grant that we've already applied to for cleaning up that area and enhancing that area, is that easy enough did that include this idea of pickleball courts there? I'm just trying to get a little clarity on that space that went out to the county. Thoughts, Dan?
It was a multi-use.
Multi-use.
Multi-use grant.
So easy to put the pickleball courts, it completely fits into what that grant, what we've already had left.
So,
Am I right?
Right, it's active and active, right?
Great.
Just how you paint it.
Okay. So,
Dan, did you have your hand up?
No, I did not.
Go ahead, Jeff.
No, okay.
Come on up, John. Please give us your name and your address.
John Krieger, 163 Highwood, President of the Chamber. Two sessions ago, I came in here and I told you all that your downtown is a disaster. We're talking now for 30 minutes about the least difficult thing to get executed. It's the bar couldn't be set lower. Pickleball courts, right? This has nothing to do with the bigger picture of things that need to happen to prevent stores from going out of business, etc. The question here is, who's preventing things like this from happening in the span of 3 to 6 months, right? There's nothing but good about this. It can't be an issue. It's in the middle of a park that has 4 tennis courts that look like they're out of Chernobyl, right? They're sitting right there. I'm not sure where else you would put them, but they're right there next to the monument that just got, I don't know how much money. The second thing is, how much actual money is sitting in this parks fund? Is there a number to that?
So I'm just going to interrupt for a second. So first of all, it looks like there's a significant amount of support of the council to make this happen.
Yeah, I understand.
Just like to speak.
Right. Number two, money is absolutely important to every project we do, but the money is there to take care of this project, and they're assuming the council moves this forward tonight, which it kind of sounds like it's going to, if I was to take a read.
Yeah.
Right? We would then give Jimmy Homsey, the borough administrator, and the Department of Recreation director, Jamie, the go-ahead to start putting the whole project together. And that means confirming the location in town and figuring out how much it's going to cost. And then once they do that, which can actually happen pretty quickly, they would come back to the council would approve the process, it passes 2 ordinances and 2 meetings to raise the money for it, which we have, and then the process can start.
So I have a question.
There you have one more question I didn't answer yet. Is there about 2.1 million in there?
2.5.
2.5 million in our open space recreation and trust fund.
About $100,000 to convert a single tennis court into 2 pickleball.
Right, so the money's there.
Got it. But just to expedite this or push the point forward, my sense is, from what I've seen over the last 6 months of these meetings, is that someone's going to propose the site, it's going to come back, it's going to be an hour-and-a-half conversation, someone's not going to like the site, 3 people aren't going to like the site, 15 people, and then it's going to be kicked out another month, and then another month. I'm just wondering, like, isn't there if the downtown is in such, is at a critical state, and it is there a process or means of pushing something like this forward in a more expedited manner so that the decision of where it goes and how it gets spent and who bids it out, which is a 6-month, so this doesn't happen in 2 years from now, but maybe happens in 6 to 12 months from now. That's the one thing. What I am going to throw into this, since we're talking about public spaces and money being allocated to Proudhon Park, which is my neighbor, which is an amazing park, and there's $2.1 million. Not one park in this town has a single water feature for children.
Okay, so
I would ask,
right. Go ahead, finish that statement, Don.
that as you're considering Proudhon Park, that you add or consider that within that park for the obvious reasons.
So two things. You just want to talk about pickleball right now.
I know, but you're talking about Proudhon Park.
Right, I understand that, because that was a separate issue, but if we want, so the first thing we want to do, if we want to build a pickleball park, we don't want to start adding on, how do we make this area good and better at the same time, and this area too, because that will slow the process down. So if the council has consensus to move forward, and we even quasi have a location, quasi only, okay, and we know the money's there, this is about as fast as it could possibly happen. And because where the money would potentially be coming from, the Open Space Trust Fund, we don't need to wait for any budget season. Council can authorize that any time in the year they choose to. So it's not something that has to take 3-6 months and wait till 2024.
So on behalf of the Chamber, we think this would be a wonderful asset to the downtown in that specific area, anything to drive more traffic.
Right. It's
The
good.
residents have said, which is desperately needed. And I'm gonna throw back in Froggy Park.
Okay, you can come back to the regular public comment to talk about Froggy Park. Yes, Jeff. Thank you, John. Are you done? I don't want to interrupt. Thank you.
So what I was going to say before, actually, thank you for those comments, because it gets to what I was going to say is, Councilman Michaels was saying, let's have Jimmy come back next week and Jamie, or not next week, but next council meeting with 3 different locations. That's what slows the process down. I think we have a location, it's not being used, it's sitting there, sort of Chernobyl-ish. What happens is this is what kills the time. We then have them come back next meeting, make recommendations, then we contemplate our neighbors, and then the next meeting, choose maybe a location. Well, why don't we have a consensus there? Do we have a consensus for this location, or we don't? If we don't, that's great, but I would say, do we have a consensus? Do we have a consensus for the old skate park? That's the question.
I think that would be the best location for it.
Right.
Okay, so here's the funny part.
Right.
The irony is, I was the guy that actually did the skate park. We barely won the vote, so the irony that I'm going to be telling you guys are changing. It's awesome. The second thing is, I love Councilman Grossman, that you're just moved. I hope to God that continues beyond the upcoming election.
I voted for the use of that skate park.
All right, let's
Let's
the third part is,
stay focused.
we are a board, we're a council. The fact that we're deciding on rec activities, why do we hire a CEO called the borough administrator? Why do we hire department heads? It's silly that we're deciding with zero knowledge whatsoever on how to run recreation, unless anyone's a rec pro here. Let's ask Jamie, who actually runs recreation. There was a reason for it. Keep in mind, I worked years to get you guys to invest and fix that Tenafly that we're all talking about. If Jamie says yes, I have no idea what to do with it, great. The intention was, there was tons of need. The whole idea was it to be multi-use. If it's something that you could put up and down, sure, we could use it for everything. But as a council, as a board of directors, to make a unilateral decision with zero knowledge, to say we want to permit something here and not somewhere else, that sounds like we're not doing our job well. So I love doing it. Again, coming back in one cycle will be the fastest anything has ever happened in this council, ever. And they're going to come back with 3. We choose one of those 3. And the truth of the matter is that Jamie says, as the director of recreation, yeah, that's the best place. That's great. I love pickleball. I think it'd be awesome. I'm all for it. I love the idea of doing stuff more downtown. I think I'm involved with the downtown too. So I'm good for it. But for us just to make a unilateral decision sounds like we didn't do our diligence properly.
All right, thank you. Let's go ahead, please. Your name and your address, please.
Mitch Hollander, 51 Palmer Avenue, been a resident of Tenafly since 1993. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for listening to me and everyone. Just a quick thing, there's so many things, some people have said things that are really helpful to getting pickleball here. But my personal experience, and I play in towns all over, Bergen County. When I go to a town, I play in the morning, and I stop and have coffee in that town. Play at lunchtime, I will have a sandwich. Dinner, there's a whole dinner meal. And I spent so much money in different towns. I would love to be able to play in town, meet some people, and stay in our town and have coffee, sandwich, dinner, the works. So this is my personal experience with thousands of dollars outside of this town that could be spent going forward in our community. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Okay, other members of the public who would like to speak that are in the chambers? Anyone here in the chamber? Yes, please come up to the microphone. And then we're going to ask for members of the public that are on Zoom who would like to speak again. What? No, we're going to, no, I didn't ask for the members of the public other than Mr. Goldman, so.
Hi.
Just give us your name and address, please.
I'm Mahara, 46 Bell Lane. I just want to make sure that when you do pick purpose for the pickleball, make sure that we have also lights in the courts, and it will be great.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Omar, is there anyone out on Zoom who would like to speak?
I see no hands, Mayor.
No hands, no one out on Zoom who would like to speak? If you do, now's the last shot at that. Raise your hand, or Omar, no one?
Everyone wins.
No hands, Mayor. Okay, so I'm going to close the public comment. So do we have a consensus around the table to delegate to Jimmy and Jamie to go ahead and figure out the best place to put a pickleball court?
Or how about
Establish a course?
Councilman Grossman's actual question? Did you want
Which
to,
is?
about that location? Did you?
Well,
do you
I
wanna
would
have-
ask,
Yeah, I mean,
I would ask our experts, is this
Right.
a good location? Rather than,
That's-
let's come back with
Right.
our
That's-
laundry list. To Councilman Michael's point, that the experts, I was hoping, that they would have come to us soon on pickleball, but that's fine. That they can,
Sorry, again, to
that
James'
they
credit, we brought this up a year ago to try to do this. This was one of the ideas actually for the multi-use space. It's multi-use.
Well,
We
now
were
that
talking about pickleball for a while, which drove her to put the
multi-use.
Right, correct. All right, so now the momentum's here. So do I have a consensus from the council?
Yes.
Yes.
Move forward on that? Yes. Julie, go ahead.
Mayor Zimmerman, and I just want to talk to something, just to clarify, well, a little bit of a bigger item, because it's been talked about. The Open Space Trust Fund, it can be used for many things. One of those uses is also purchasing open space. So I just want to say that we have no idea what this is going to cost, and I don't think it's going to cost much, but I want to say there doesn't seem to be any disagreement in using an area for pickleball. It's just, I want to say, especially as liaison on the Environmental Commission, I just don't want people under an impression that Open Space Trust Fund, $2.5 million, is only there for, lights and basketball courts and things like that, just because we have a lot of constituencies, and this is not even an area of conflict at all. I'm just saying, I just felt that bared a little bit of explanation when we're talking about that money. Just so we all know, we've all put that aside in our taxes for the preservation of open space as well, active and passive recreation. We're going to be using a lot of that to make a very nice area in the old swim club, and we have applied using that money for exactly this area that's being discussed with an open space grant at the county level. So I just wanted to, for anyone listening, that money, it's not just something where we're, rating it for every project that comes along, just so nobody in town thinks that's what we're doing. We're trying to be very responsible with all the money and all of our constituencies.
Okay.
Actually, I'm sorry, in parallel to what we're doing, it sounds like the tennis courts are not organized properly. Let's actually add to the fact that let's fix them, so we can actually use them for, tennis.
Okay.
It's the same material, I would assume, right?
All right, so Jimmy, you're clear on this? We have a consensus to move forward?
Mayor?
Can you hear me?
I want to clarify, so I want to make sure three recommended locations from through Jamie and myself to the council, correct?
Right, so there is a general sense that the skate park is the old skate park is the place we want to put this, but of course you have to look at it, confirm that location makes sense, everything fits, et cetera, and have an alternative location if that one happens to be a problem, just so everyone understands where we are.
And
what we can do to fix the tennis courts that we already have.
Right.
I just want to reiterate what Mitch Hollander said, which was the importance of having it tie into our downtown. And thank you for that comment.
Right. All right, so do you have clarity on that, Jimmy? So, Dan?
just to build off everything, when we were talking about this old skate park and turfing the tiger cage, I asked that, if possible, if we can expand both those asphalt areas.
Of what? The tiger cage?
Right. I know, but whatever we can get away with, it'd be nice if we could
Okay,
expand
but we're going to
Just
ask
keep that
the
in mind.
administrator we have multiple requests here. Number one priority is going to be the pickleball court.
That's why I'm waiting for the environmental map.
Secondarily, they'll separately look at the tennis court repairs.
That we can figure out.
And then your
That's why I want
tiger
that.
cage. Okay, Jimmy, any other questions or you have clarity?
There's a water
In other words, location, what's it gonna cost, how soon it could be done, and we have a general sense of where we're getting the money from. Okay? Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. Thank you for coming out tonight, I appreciate it.
Please hold us accountable. There's another meeting in 2 weeks, so hold us accountable. Okay. 27, Tuesday, 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
Do you know what the status is, or is there anything ongoing with the Northern Valley Greenway, the railroad track?
Okay, so that is, right. So the Northern Valley Greenway, that is still in a state of creativity, in the sense that there is no deal that I'm aware of as of the past few weeks of the railroad agreeing to that, and there's all kinds of entities involved. And there's 6 towns involved. The question is whether the town should be the lead agency or really the county should be. So there's a laundry list of unanswered questions with no guarantee that it will or won't happen.
So basically, things will happen faster than that.
Okay, there's no question about it. No, 100%. Okay, thank you. What?
Okay.
We have 3 council members here. We'll move on. All right, Jeff, Lauren, we're continuing. All right, next item on the agenda is Main Street Pops proposal. What? Okay. All right, Main Street Pops proposal. Who's got questions about this? This is all about
I love this,
the
by the way.
Oktoberfest, which sounds pretty cool.
The Oktoberfest was a great community event. What a way to get our community out. I know we had to cancel one during the pandemic, but I'm so thrilled to see it back on.
Just a question for Susan, how much is in the budget for these purposes? I remember we put, like, specifically for this, right?
25,000.
Oh, is that cover one of that?
Yeah.
That'll cover the Oktoberfest.
No.
Explain it more fully.
So this is, and actually, John and Jimmy, if you want to come up, since you guys are co-sponsoring it. So what's going to happen is, the council agreed to 3 events for $25,000. The council is getting 3 events for $25,000. Because John and Jimmy are fancy schmancy, and they really like the cool stuff, the chamber is actually going to give $15,000. Thank you, Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you.
And we are going to get, as a council, 3 events for the $25,000. So it's a total of 40, they're paying 15, they're going to have confirmation that they're able to split the bill.
And that's what I was gonna ask.
So that's good. So they're splitting the bill, we're gonna get a proposal, whatever it's called, a PO, for $25,000 for 3 of us.
Yeah.
John, Jimmy?
So I want to just make it clear to everybody on the council, the events within the town, like a carnival or an Oktoberfest or I came into this position 3 months ago. I had attended several street fairs. They were pretty embarrassing. My standards are higher, or all of ours should be. The budget from the council to host events that bring together thousands of people from the community, I want it to be known that you've allocated $25,000. These events, real events that are of quality and significance, are much more money. But because there's only $25,000 from the council, which I understand was a stretch, the chamber is coming in, raising capital to subsidize this. The chamber should be spending money supporting small businesses through marketing, social media, PR, and other efforts. But it is so critical to start to unite this town and build community through meaningful events that are hosted by sophisticated individuals that we are having to step in to fund this. I just want everybody to be fully aware of this. 25 grand in total for a town of 15,000 people and $100 million budget. $105 million. $25,000 to $105 million.
Well, whatever.
All right, council members have any questions on this? You asked your question?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dan, then Jeff.
So yes, I appreciate that the chamber will be donating some of the funds. Unfortunately, we have to plan as a borough, spend only 25. Until we have that check cleared, okay, then we'll plan for 40.
And they're actually going to, they're only sending us a bill for 25, so they're going to actually send 2 bills.
Even better.
Right, it's 2 separate things, everyone
Even
has their
better.
own contract.
Nice and clean.
And I just, again, I'm
Hold
wondering.
on, John. Hold on a second. Lauren, please, first.
I wanted to ask about the Oktoberfest liquor and how the borough, are we,
It's not the borough, we're going to work with the restaurant, so I actually have a call into Steve at Tenafly Diner. This is, if you remember, about 100 years ago, right before COVID, we had the same plan.
Right.
And he was going to, so the whole idea is, he has a liquor license.
He's gonna extend it
He's
to
gonna
that.
fill out the forms with Jimmy and Omar, so yes. So the borough is not giving out liquor, I'm sorry. Wendy wanted to, but I'm like, no, I thought you might do that.
Wendy's keeping comments for contractual discussion.
okay, so my question is to liability, public drinking in their squares, all that fun stuff. Are we covered? I guess we could discuss this later.
So if I could just chime in there, if you don't mind, what would be great from the council tonight is just a consensus on the types of activities, whether it's the council, whether it's the borough that is sponsoring the activities, whether it's the chamber that's sponsoring the activities. That's really not the question at the moment. It's here you have a proposal for 3 different activities. Are these things you want to look forward to moving forward with? The council will not be spending more than $25,000 that was budgeted on these events, and everything else, I promise you, I will work on and make sure it's done appropriately.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council members? All right, it sounds like we're good to go on the Oktoberfest. Great. Yeah, great. Thank you to the chamber, thank you to the council members for pushing this forward.
Downtown,
I just want to say one thing, Jamie Corsair, 92 Woodland Street. I'm doing a lot of listening. I did this night about pickleball and to a lot of the residents, and I just keep hearing community. Community, we need more things that build community. So thank you for approving the Oktoberfest as opposed to all the events that we're going to do for the downtown, and just keep that in mind whenever something comes across your desk. If it adds to the community, if it brings people together, if it, it just adds to mental health, behavioral health, and just happiness in our town. And just thank you guys.
Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is downtown engineering priorities. Thank you for everyone who worked on this. I happen to be looking at the end of the proposal here where it goes into, it starts at page 36, 37, 36, 35. Talks about all the different phases, and I guess we're at the stage where we should start moving forward on different phases here. The top few phases on the list, just going in order. We've got the new signals at East Clinton and Dean Drive, which we've all been dying for years. One of the issues that's not listed here, but the engineers brought up, was the issue of the railroad tracks being designated for
Not
non-use, which potentially may have very little financial cost involved in it.
That's just like a given.
Right, that's right. But it has to, in other words, but it still has to happen,
I
right?
would not put that as given. There's,
Given that they're going to try to do it.
Right.
Not giving us to
of
happen.
course.
Right, right, right.
So
So
all
all
we're
the
trying to
rail
do.
guarantees, right.
Yeah.
I can't make that meeting on Thursday, so.
Okay, all right. The next thing, the pilot closure of Piermont Road at the bus stop.
Yes.
And the all-way stop at J Street, and up to page 37, the retiming of the signals, which would be a pretty good start.
I think this is so imperative for our community to be able to function. I mean, my husband is now driving community through town, and between that drive and my drive every morning to school, where I literally think I risked my life playing chicken with cars in and out of Piermont and River Edge and all of these places, because everyone's so delayed with his lights and trying to get to where they need to get to on time. This is a must. If our community is going to function going forward, we have to focus on this traffic pattern. And again,
Julie, sorry, go ahead.
no, that's okay. We have the American Rescue Funds. This is the most, Adam says also, having the most community-facing, resident-facing thing we could do right now for a better community.
Julie?
Mayor, so obviously, something like that low-lying fruit where it doesn't even cost anything, if you know that we want to pursue this idea of the train tracks, I have no problem with just directing them in this way. I would just want to say that, for example, the signal work is, you know, we're talking about safety. I want, so just above those things, which talk about traffic signal equipment above and below ground, on the very top line, there's final design and construction plans and specification, $75,000. Is that that was on page 35. Is that more planning? It sounds like more like planning. The reason, where I'm going with this is, I was just wondering that if we wanted to pick out a project, and I know it's under to be considered, and we could talk maybe more at the next meeting, more specific, but I just have some concerns that in order to do something like one project, it's going to also be this like $75,000 thing before a project's even undertaken. Do you know, I'm just worried about like a creep.
So go ahead and I'll respond to that.
So, I've looked at this intersection before, and because this is a county road, the county has certain requirements that we have to fulfill, and the county requires additional study. I understand. Go ahead.
Yeah, when you have roadway projects, especially when they're bigger roadway projects, usually have A through D in design, and as you continue to move forward is when they get further aligned and detailed, because, for example, you may go out and do a test on concrete or something that in the area you wouldn't do it if you're not going to move forward, so it's all incremental. You're right in that respect, but Lauren's also right that that's how the process works. It is done incrementally to not spend before you decide to spend.
And the first part of any construction project, Julie, having been in the construction business most of my life, is you have to have a plan for what you're going to do before you put a shovel in the ground. And that's going to include, you know, what's the typography, which way the road face, what the surveys say, what's underneath, right? What are the water issues, and all that, you need a blueprint to actually go from. So planning is the most essential part of any construction project.
So if we wanted to do signals, just for example, though, it's not really 250, it's really 325.
Are you on page 35? Are you on page 35?
Yeah, because I guess, you know, like, I'm thinking of my own house. I like to get, like, real prices before I undertake something, and it's like, you know, I just want to make sure as the buyer that I'm like, oh, okay, this is my long way of saying I probably just need till next meeting to maybe give you more direction, but I just, you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, I want a traffic signal above ground. Sounds a great idea, but it's not really what it is.
Well, sorry, just a couple things. The first one is, I don't think we should get into the, you don't pick traffic signal for 150. I think the lowest level you can go of sorts is 530 or 250 for Piermont. So that's the first thing. The other thing is pieces.
Right.
What I would recommend, so I think you need to do three things. One, this council needs. First thing is, let this council decide what their priorities are. Move number 3 to 2, 2 to 1, 1 to doesn't. So that's one. The second thing is we have to go back. The second thing is we need to go back. Remember, these guys we have for another 30 days. That's why I was pushing really hard to move on this. So once we give them the direction, they can tell us exactly how it's going to work, what, you know, their feedback on it. It will actually help them. They called me last week, and with Jimmy, on just what they need to help us more. That's the second thing. The third, and I'd really like Susan to help us, is to understand what this really looks like. So I will tell you what I don't. So if you added all this up right now, it's $6 million. Can we afford $6 million? Obviously, we all understand, I hope we all know, we don't cut a check today for $6 million. I'm going to make this up. You could put out a bond over 30 years, 500 this, 5,000 households, it's going to raise taxes $3.73. I have no clue what any of those numbers are. I will speak for only myself. I will have a better understanding of what the priorities are, or how much we want to do. If Susan can come back to us on, is it $3 a household because it's a 30-year bond over this, or no? It is going to tank our rating to double D minus because we have to pay all $6 million up front in checks. That's what I don't know the answer to how we pay for it. And if Susan can help us with that, I think that would give us a better understanding of, can we afford $6 million or no? We can only afford $500,000. That's what I asked.
Lauren, go ahead.
So one of the questions, and I hope everyone here heard it, but I asked very specifically last meeting is this our expert's recommendation for the order in which would make the most sense of the traffic?
Yes, it is. That's what
and that's a very important question because they did the phases to actually, in a linear way, to do it logically. You can't just start in the middle. They did it at the end and then back up to the
Just so you understand, it's the highest, if you guys remember the numbers, it's the highest improvement to the business, to the town at one point. So personally, I like some things that were at the end that only had a 2% improvement in time.
Right.
The first phase improved the first 33% immediately.
And from my understanding, that 2% at the end can only happen if we do all the other changes beforehand.
That I don't know if it's linear. I don't think it's
some of like the
some of the stuff, but yes.
Some of the stuff.
It was more highest ROI.
Saving money on like the commuting on County Road.
Yes.
We need to start with this intersection in phase one that they're highlighting.
That's correct.
So for me, I would not defer from their recommendations, their professional recommendations. I do think we need to understand the money. I think that we need to understand where the money's coming from, and I also think we have Millennium. They need to be all over this with opportunities for grants. Because there is safe streets, there's traffic safety grants, there's also county grants that we can get on both River Edge crossings and this East Clinton Drive. Those are county roads.
And the other thing, just as a reminder, the reason why we chose Brightview in part was they helped with a lot of grants.
Right.
I want to tell you, there's either Summit or another comparable Tenafly town, they just got a grant for it. So part of the reason why we liked them was because they would actually help us. They will actually help us over the next 30 days on grants.
And we have, Jeff, go ahead. I was going to say, in terms, because the question was raised about the money, we have money in the American Rescue Funds available to us to get this started so that we have no impact on Tenafly taxpayers to get this kicked off in a nice way. Go ahead, Jeff.
So all I was going to say is, to the point of what the Brightview's priorities were, I mean, number one is that signal in Clinton and Dean Drive. We know that's horrible. We know that's a nightmare. That generates complaints like crazy, and rightfully so. I yell and scream every time I'm at that intersection. If that is the number one priority, we really need to look at, let's get that done. Let's not move around other priorities. Let's not play with, if a lot of the other things, including timing, depends on what happens at that intersection. So if that intersection doesn't happen, a lot of the other stuff.
It's the cork.
Yeah, it's the cork. So I like that. Thank you. So let's unpop the cork and see what we can do on that. Everything else we sit here and discuss is great. But it takes away some of our focus. We need to be hyper-focused. What does it take to get this done?
So are you saying you want to use the American Rescue Funds to start?
Well, I think your point about we need to understand the money is correct. So I can't answer that until we understand the money.
Susan, can you come to the microphone and we're going to get to Julie's question?
I'm giving it dark, by the way.
So, we covered this before, we don't know. Yes. Count.
There's a second light.
Okay, stay focused. Julie.
Okay, so one of the things I wanted to bring up, which is something, So one of the things that I wanted to bring up, which is what I heard during discussions about the area that is going to be the senior living next to the Clinton Inn. There was talk by those developers about helping with the light there. I thought that was, and you were on the planning board. Do you remember something about that they talked that they would work on that light area? And that's my question.
About promises.
I see.
Discussion.
Oh, so they didn't commit to.
Well, we would, to your point, we certainly have a discussion with them to see how that, would directly affect them and whether or not it would make sense for them to participate in the process.
Thank you.
Okay? Because there could be changes to their entrances and exits, and we try to work together on it.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind people that was thrown out there.
So the question is, right, so how much money is in the American Rescue that we have in the bank today, okay, that is eligible for use on this? And is the American Rescue money a appropriate use in terms of this project?
So we have over $900,000, 990 something, I think, somewhere between there.
950?
It was 900. We used 555,000, so it's high nines, almost $1 million. So we had 1.5 million. We can use this money, selected a category under the American Rescue Plan called Provision for Government Services. So this would fall under that category. And, it's infrastructure, public safety, and all that. But when I looked at that plan, you have traffic lights, you have million paving, you have a whole bunch of things in there. So maybe you would prioritize and figure out, maybe put the traffic lights in one category, the million paving in another category, and use some of the funds use up the funds in the American Rescue Plan, contingent upon how you're gonna prioritize this.
Okay. Who has other questions for Susan? Lauren?
What other funds do we have right now that you can consider? I mean, can anything that you can think of in our budget be allocated or be raised as a budget line item over years?
If you're not to borrow money for the rest
So
of it.
rest is bonding.
Yeah.
You point out that, maybe it's just my own interest. Again, if we just said we wanted to spend $6 million, do we bond for that? How much does it really cost? Is it a significant impact on the community, or again, over 30 years, $6 million, would it be, I know.
So you have to spend out the useful life of each project that gets calculated. So that's in accordance with the statutes, and bond council can tell us what the useful life is. And then you need 5% down payment on the monies that you borrow. That's by statute as well. And that will go in our operating budget. And then you would ban for the projects for borrow on it. And then you, over time, for the ban, you just pay interest for 2 years, and then you have to start paying the principal. And you would have to borrow money for this. You would have to incur debt for this.
I think we should just think about it, not to answer now, but as a council, do we think, again, we just think phase 3 is done. If we had all the money in the world, we still wouldn't do it. Or, no, with unlimited money, we would do all these things, pedestrian safety, it's kind of important. And again, what's the impact? Again, doing it right now. Is it just $300,000 in our account, which is a huge amount of money? What are the implications? So again, not to answer now, but I think it would be, if the council believes, if we had unlimited funds, these are the right things to be doing. If Susan could come back to us, and it doesn't even have to be at a meeting, you could just email to. I would just love to understand.
I'm on the cart before the horse type of mythology. Once Clinton and Dean get solved, we only need to change the signal light, the timing. We don't have to replace it down the way. You know what I mean? Like small stuff like that. Like cart before the horse.
doing the first phase, they're still equally recommending you need to do phases 2 through 4. They wouldn't
For total improvement, correct.
It's about $150 a year per house over 30 years.
And I don't know if that's a lot or a little.
Depends on the household. Your general
Yeah,
capital
like
plan is
4%.
usually around how much?
Well, I think
We're aiming for 3.5 now.
doing more than 3 million, 3.54.
I think we're trying to put that.
4.7 million, I think was,
Highest one?
I don't know if it was this year or last year. I haven't-
2 years ago.
Right.
2 years ago.
Comparison. Okay, Jeff, then Lauren, please.
Yeah. Look, that's almost a tough question to answer.
It's a hard one,
Because it's
yeah.
not just $150 a household. If we
Now.
were living in a vacuum, that'd be great. We have a library route, possibly a whole new
We're
library.
not in a vacuum, are we?
We're not in a vacuum at all, and we have other projects that have to be done. And so it wouldn't just be 150, we have to look at the totality. And one of the problems is, right now, this is great, we're hyper-focused on this, but it can't be to the detriment of everything else that needs to be fixed, done. And so it's not 6,300,000 added, it's 10 million, 12 million.
I think it's something we should look at. And again, up or down, I don't even know where I would vote on. But I think we have to look at all those things. You know, there are a couple of things. You look at, we know the school board is looking to do a referendum on a huge amount of money on their part. We look at, we're going to talk, I thought it was so interesting, that on the door, Susan put together the taxes. You realize, I would argue, it's very funny, I would argue we actually did not tax enough. You're never going to hear any other politician ever say that before. Why? Because we raised our taxes roughly 2%, school raised the taxes 3%, county raised, and they're all estimates, but it's what you see on paper, raised their numbers 5%, and we know that last year's inflation was 6.2%. So us raising our taxes 2% means we lost. The only way we could have gotten 2% is because we lost services. We could have paid for everything else. So long-winded to say, I don't know what the number is, but it's an interesting, inflation's inflation. I don't know, we have to figure out, I don't know how to answer this question.
The only reason I shook my head was because one of the benefits we have at Tenafly is because of the increase of the assessed value of about 40 million. Is that number about right? We were able to generate tax revenue, right? So that's part of the reason why. I'm sorry, excuse me, go ahead.
So Ed, the 5% that was estimates, okay? And then when you look at the whole budget, right, there's other factors that went into it. This year we were really fortunate because we had a drop off in debt. And then with the drop off in debt, we were able to absorb the 22% increase in our health insurance premiums. Now, next year may be a tougher year because, you know, we have maturity schedules for our repayment of bonds. Right now, the latest bonds will start a little lower and then will increase. Hopefully by 2026, we'll have another drop off and then we'll bond again. But in the meantime, our debt has increased, and with the debt increasing, maybe we move bonds right away, maybe we'll roll our notes, and you have up to 10 years to roll notes. So it's all like looking at every scenario and looking towards the future to see how we're going to keep taxes down. Because if we don't keep taxes down, this council is going to have a lot of complaints, so you have to like look at that. Because maybe the average household in the borough right now is assessed at $750,000. That number hasn't been reevaluated in a long time. So, you know, it's all this, the increase in the assessed valuation, all this comes together, and the goal really is to stay within the caps that we have to, that are dictated by the state, and try to keep the taxes at a reasonable increase every year. None of the taxes go up. I mean, towns that do 0%, that's not a good idea. But we did spend a lot of money. We've been spending money, the budget's been increasing, we've been maintaining critical services, and I think that the borough as a whole has been doing a really good job.
Great job. Thanks.
Okay, Vanu, I'm sorry.
Susan, in terms of debt, you say the debt's been increasing. How much are we talking about? What number would you
So our latest note that we just did, which by the way, we just got really good rates in there. The rate was 3.5, very low, AAA rated. We had 5 competitive bids, they were really good, very close. The note that we just rolled was 13.294, and that was for debt that we encountered, that we're appropriating for 2021 and 22. So that gives you an idea of how much we're appropriating in the last few years.
So we currently have 13.294.
No, more than that, that's just the current note. And I don't want to quote something, but I think it's around, it should be around 25 to 30 million.
Right. So,
Yeah.
and so when you look into how much people have to pay, or as residents have to pay, it's not just an increase in $150. You have to look at this whole 25, that's $30 million, right? And that's what people are going to be responsible for.
So fortunately for this year, and somebody could argue that okay, that debt dropped off, well, what's going to happen in the next year, what's going to happen, we have to address that as we go along. So this year we did have a significant drop, $795,000, somewhere around there. So that helped us a lot. But then, like I said, the debt will go up. So yeah, every time we incur more debt, the principal payment when we do the bonding will go in our operating budget. So we do need traffic signals, and they're very expensive, and the controls are very expensive. So one person that I can really talk about is the chief. He knows about that. Somebody hits a pole and it's $300,000 sometimes. The traffic signals are really expensive. The controls.
That was what I was gonna say.
Yeah, but the debt, it depends on what you're spending on, the useful life, and the prioritization. When I was taking my classes, they said, what you need to do is make your wish list for capital and stick to that. We could, it's like, just because sometimes you don't buy. So when you all talk about grants, we should make our wish list and look for the grants that apply to the wish list. And try to stick in that realm.
Just to follow up, it's 25 to 30 million now. How much was it about 5 years ago? Was it more or less?
It's been pretty stable actually, because we have the ability, right? That we're getting such good rates, okay, because we're AAA rated, and our useful life for the projects we've been doing have the last, I think it's 10 years, so they drop off pretty quickly. So we're able to rebond and do this. One drops off, we keep the budget, try to keep the budget neutral. So it's been pretty good. Now this will be a little tougher, because when I first got here, we were doing $2.5 million to $3 million of appropriating for capital. So now it's a little bigger, the debt. So maybe we move bonds and we'll keep it as temporary financing a little longer. It's just looking at the numbers and seeing what's in the best interest of.
So I think Councilman Grossman has a proposal.
Jeff, go ahead, you had a comment?
No, proposal. So you said, instead of doing everything, looking at everything, let's just, if we agree on the first one, and
Let's get this on. And start executing.
done.
Knowing the money will come from the American Rescue Funds.
Let's do it.
We have consensus on that?
Yes.
Okay. And as a side note, it's not going to cost me money. Jimmy, you're there, right? Jimmy?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, so we have a consensus from the council to move forward on the first phase of the plan here, the new signal at East Clinton Avenue and Dean Drive, New Street. Plus, as a secondary, the second item is the railroad designation not in use, which our expectation is that's, not going to cost us any sort of capital, and that Susan has indicated that the American Rescue Funds is an appropriate amount of money for this project.
The only thing you just have to ask the engineers, and Jimmy could ask, phase one has 4 elements to it. I'm assuming something like pilot the closure of Piermont Road, we might not have to do. I just don't know, retiming of existing signals for $60,000 is not a lot of money. I don't know if you have to do that at the same time as new signals or East Clinton and Dean.
Well,
so we just have to confirm if you can break up within phase one, or you need to do all of phase one.
Right, so Jimmy will get that clarification. Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
Just a follow-up. If we want to engage Bryce, we have to, so after these 30 days, we have to recontract with them?
I think we would do it anyway for these particular projects. What we want done, because that's what we paid for, is for them to give us, with our, and maybe the answer is just that first phase, like what's the kind of final numbers, the final, actually I would like them, grants were like part of it, like maybe they have to find some grants. Let's just go back to the original proposal we wrote and make sure that they deliver on all those elements.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Jimmy, you have complete clarity on that, right?
Yeah, just if you don't mind, if Councilman Michael's going to repeat that one question for clarification about.
Just the question is, do we have to do all of phase 1? Or can we do just the new signal at East Clinton and Dean?
Okay.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Let's move on to the COVID Memorial Trust Fund. Yeah, Councilman Manning, you put this on the agenda?
Yeah, so this is just a general, so this is just a general request that, since we're putting the COVID memorial in Davis Johnson, that it makes sense to allow our residents, people that are also similarly affected or interested, to donate money for improving the COVID memorial.
So you want to put a trust fund with this purpose to improve the COVID memorial? Right. Susan, would you mind coming back up to the microphone? Do we have a trust fund that we can use for this, or do we need a separate trust, or how does that work?
So I asked Omar before to pull the resolution that was done in 2020, which was a trust for COVID-19 donations. It was a little bit specific to what the goal, the tasks were, or where the donations were to be used for, which was to provide for meals and school lunches and all that. But I think because it's COVID-19 donations and it's a dedication by a writer, I don't know, maybe Wendy could answer this. Sometimes the dedications evolve. I spoke to Paul about this with somebody else, auditor. You may be able to use this trust, and if you want to amend this, maybe we can, but I'd have to check with the state of New Jersey to find out if this trust could be amended. I think there could still be some money left in it, and if we can add the donations to this may be the right spot to do it.
So let me ask you another question. If I'm not mistaken, there is a trust fund for Davis Johnson Park already?
No, for COVID-19.
No, I understand that.
There's also a trust fund.
Is there a trust fund?
Yeah, there is.
Would we be able to, and I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but would we be able to use that trust fund also? Or is that under a whole different?
No, you could use that too.
You could use it?
Yeah, it's monies that are put in for Dave Johnson.
So you could use one or both.
Right, but there's monies that go for.
I don't think this one as is works.
There's another trust that came up today that I spoke to Paul about, and that trust was in 2014, and it was kind of specific, but he said that, under the different statutes, it encompasses that the donations could be basically used. This is a similar statute, but I'd have to check with the person, and if you don't think so, we can change
Well,
it.
either way, if the council wants to create a new trust fund, we'd have to get it approved by the state, and if we want to amend an existing trust fund, we'd have to get it approved by the state. So it may just be a question of, do you want a trust fund? And Susan and I will figure out how to get it.
Yeah.
Okay, does the council want a trust fund? Everyone in agreement with that? Is that the consensus?
That's a good idea.
Okay.
And this might have money left in it, and
Okay.
if we can use this, what else are we gonna use it?
So we're going to direct Susan for you and Wendy to work out what's the most appropriate and efficient way of doing this.
Right.
Okay?
Okay, great, thank you. What?
How much did you say was left?
The last time I checked, now, I don't want to be, definitely.
You won't be
around
quoted.
$40,000.
How much?
I thought, I have to look again, but there was about, I thought it was about $4,000.
$4,000.
So I'll double check it.
Okay.
But this is done, so, you know, we either have to cancel the dedications or use it.
That was
So,
in the best interest
Yeah.
most efficiently. Okay.
Okay.
Wonderful, thank you.
you're welcome.
All right, we're going to move on to the naming. Yeah, good idea, Councilman. Yeah. All right, next we're going to move to the naming guideline ordinance. Wendy, was this you handling or?
Well, so this was, I mean, really the work that the naming committee that they did. I just massaged it into the form of an ordinance. I had a little bit of a question that actually really dovetails into the last discussion as to whether the council wanted the request for memorials to also be received as donations in order to pay for plaques, memorials, whatnot. So this may actually dovetail if we wanted to incorporate the COVID into something like that as well, or in general. But
What do you mean, like if someone wanted to buy a brick for $50?
if that was going to run through your program, or if somebody wants a street in honor of, you know, we had discussed with the committee that the council is not going to rename streets because of all the other unintended consequences, changes in address, the post office, whatnot, but you can put an honorary name by resolution onto a street, in which case, some other towns have the person or organization requesting the honorary name that they pay for the signage. The same thing could be for, you know, planting a bush or putting a park bench in honor of someone.
But in terms of names, the council has, in other words, someone I can't come in after this passes and say I want to name a street after myself.
No, correct. There is a
So how to make a
policy
decision.
procedure, but and that's in the draft ordinance that you all can take a look at. Let me know if you have comments, and if, you know, once the council is comfortable, then it can come back for introduction. But the question is, aside from the process of approving an application for a request for a memorial or naming, did the council want to consider creating a dedication by right or trust fund to take in monies to pay for a memorial, a plaque, a bench?
No, I like the
Or
idea
is
of
the
the,
council going to be budgeting for this?
oh, I see what you're saying, rider makes sense.
So now to answer that question. Right? You know,
It's going to answer a different question.
I'm going to actually ask you, but in the naming procedures, letters say we have to make a decision within 2 months. I wonder if in certain cases that might be limited. Is there any language we can use?
I happen to agree with the councilman that 2 months struck me as, what's the point? It's not like if we don't do it in 2 months, then therefore it automatically happens, or there's any sort of punishment. You just go by the 2 months with you know.
Yeah, to be honest, I will defer that to a committee member, because that was within the guidelines that I was.
Okay, so committee members, what do you think? Is 2 months that important?
It's not that important. I think that the thought was at the time that we didn't want it to be that you have this petition come to you with, as you see, quite a lot of work, and that we just don't get back to the petitioner. That was the idea.
Maybe we put some language to that point, that in a timely manner to respond to the petitioner, respectfully. I think maybe we want something to recognize the importance of the petitioner's time and effort. Right. I think that's.
Can I ask a few things, or just some things I noted on this? I don't want to jump in front of you.
On this topic, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, Wendy, it's super quick, typo, I think, but then I'm like doubting myself, is where it says, like, under naming policies for D, that if a proposed monument incorporates an historic element, is that a historic element, or is it an historic element? I kept going back and forth in my head.
It's questionable sometimes with the H.
Okay, so just like throwing that out there.
I see it both ways.
Okay.
I personally do AN, but I have seen it both ways.
Okay.
Historical.
So I'll throw that out there. I wanted to make sure that in here, because it came up in our discussion, but forgive me when I was skimming if it's here. Did we have something here that notes that the town is not responsible if we have to remove a site or remove a monument? We don't want the petitioners later to like sue us because we've now gotten rid of a statue. And then to answer your question, my opinion is I do like the idea of having a rider for donation. I do just want to remind people though that one of this is going to be like a wall of memorial, so that's not going to be a costly situation for the years of service, for example. But to the extent that there are things like those street signs, and let's say they get very popular, like I see them in Bergenfield, I see a lot of commemorative street signs, then we don't want it to be costing the town a lot of money. If we're at maybe, 20 a year, why not have the ability to create the dedication for the rider? But that would be my 2 cents on that, so.
I would just wanted, there was something we hadn't spoken about, and I thought.
So you're suggesting we do it, correct? I'm not hearing any opposition.
I just want to know whether the council is budgeting when they approve a naming or a memorial, if the council is budgeting and paying for it, or if the applicant should be paying for it.
Applicant. Because we would never know when it come up at budget time.
Obviously there could be proposals that the council makes on its own motion.
I think we should start with the applicant paying for it, so we have clarity. Correct. Otherwise, you council puts itself in the position of, you're paying for, why didn't you pay for mine too?
Okay, so I will,
Besides, these plaques are a very personal thing to people.
They're going to do all this work, so.
Right, correct.
all right, so I will go ahead and tweak it a little bit based on the comments received this evening, and I'll get back up to you guys.
Wonderful. Thank you for your work to the committee on that. Okay, item F, 2023 league conference. Jimmy, are you handling that, or Omar?
That's me. So I just received this communication from the League of Municipalities earlier last week. The league will be from November 14th to the 16th. And typically I will receive this notice sometime in beginning of July, but I received it early this year. So in it, the registration or the reservation for housing is now open. It opened on June 1st. With that being said, if any of the governing body members are interested in attending the league this year, just email me and let me know what housing are you interested in down in Atlantic City, because everything's open now, so it's probably best to jump on it right now, opposed to waiting until we get closer to the league where there's not too many options available. So
Okay.
I'm just wanted to put that out there.
Perfect. So you want an email from all the council members and myself and any other borough administrator whoever's attending?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let Omar know, please. Thank you, Omar. All right. Next, we have administrative report. Jimmy, does anyone have questions for Jimmy on the administrative report, or Jimmy, do you want to talk about anything in particular? Lauren has a question.
I just don't see the vacant property report.
It's there. I thought it was the building report. It's part of it's in the buildings.
But I didn't see the vacant property.
It's
It's right here. It's it.
It's in the second page.
Any other questions for Jimmy? Or Jimmy, any points to make on this?
Looking forward to the road improvement program and the municipal website update. So those will, soon come.
And did the curbing work start already this week, or it's still to come?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Did the curbing work start already, or is still to start?
It was scheduled to. I believe it has.
Okay. All right.
Can I ask, Jimmy, can you hear me? Jimmy?
Yeah, just ask it out loud.
What's happening on the triangle on County Road? The triangle property?
The triangle property?
Yeah, the
We're
one
waiting.
that we can't get the.
We're waiting for a developer to come to us with a plan.
But we still have that rusty old light right at the corner.
Yeah, the light.
I get tons of residents.
Oh, the light.
Yeah.
Okay, yep, the light, yeah.
It's like, it's not, though. It was owned by the gas station.
Right, so,
That was there beforehand.
so Jimmy, on the corner of Highwood and County is the triangle property, and there's an old rusty light hanging there. that we drive by so much, we stop noticing it, but it's still there and it's ugly. So you and I talk offline tomorrow about what it's going to take to remove that.
I just get a lot of residents asking.
No, you'll do.
There's something in the administrator's report, well, next to it with the grants that I'm passing along from the Board of Health. Omar's shaking his head, he was there. So one of the grants here is a spotted lanternfly program spraying, and the Board of Health had recommended that we apply, because even if we decide that we don't want this, like when we get more into the details, we can see if there's something less toxic to spray, because that was being brought up, but, we're not sure of what they would spray. But what was suggested is that we apply because it's given on a first come, first served basis, and if we want it, we could get up to $15,000 for the town for a spotted lanternfly control treatment program. And if we apply early, then chances are we get it. It's a first come, first served basis. So the suggestion from our representative from Mid-Bergen was, why don't you apply, and then, it's not a matching situation, and then if we're not comfortable with what the pesticide is or whatever the program is, then we don't have to do it. But I just wanted to convey that and see if maybe if the council had consensus, we could have Jimmy proceed with that. That was the New Jersey Department of Agriculture one.
So,
Lauren, go ahead.
one of the things I was looking into it, Julie, is they weren't sure, if it would kill all the fireflies, which are essential to the ecosystem. So if somebody could find, I know that's a really big thing, but I'd like to know the answer to that before I spray all the fireflies away in Tenafly.
No, actually, Councilwoman, it was exactly my point in that discussion. That I said, we don't want to make more harm than good by getting rid of lanternflies. Plus, we did that great work of getting rid of the SGAR black boxes, so we don't want to do the opposite. I'm totally with you. But I think the idea was to apply and then maybe do the research at the same time and then just not.
And that's fine.
Okay. But I agree with you.
The whole town of lanternflies, and in particular, they're on my street, and I've been looking as I walk the dog for the nesting, but I can't. They're doing it, I think, way high up.
Thank you. I agree with that completely. So is that I just wanted to make sure I gave that direction from Board of Health if you think we can proceed, but at the same time maybe get a little bit more details, Jimmy?
I think, Jimmy, you heard that, so we need to get more detail on this whole topic. You there?
Yeah, I'm here. If we want, we may suggest as part of what we pay Millennium, is, they can, part of the services is consulting. So if you'd like, if it's okay with Councilwoman O'Connor, if we'd like to set up a call, meet her in Millennium to get more information, if that's what I gather from this conversation, or you want to get a proposal.
I'd be happy to just talk. Yeah, you can set up a call, and I'll tell her where my head's at and what I heard from Councilwoman Dayton as well. That's fine.
Yeah, so if you want, we'll communicate, and then we'll set up calls with whoever, me, you, and whoever you feel is appropriate to include.
Thank you. And can I ask just my last questions for the Borough Administrator, Mr. Mayor? Okay, so Jimmy, how is that plaque going for Bill McClure? I know that a few cycles ago you had some direction on the materials. I just wanted to know what the status of that was.
I'm sorry, only like half that I came through that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just asking about the status of the plaque for Bill McClure for the dais.
Yeah, so it was ordered. It's in production. I could follow up with them tomorrow, but it's in production and ordered.
That's great. Thank you. And these are two other questions that are related to people in the borough. Is the cameras for specifically the Rose Garden are more like front burner cameras, but I needed to make sure that this really was front burner. How are we doing with the security cameras? I know that Susan and the chief were talking, and I just wanted to know if everybody knows what these next steps are supposed to be.
Yeah, so the chief was going to get assistance from Susan's office to see who's on contract. The chief is away for a week, but they have been communicating to give him some of the potential vendors that they deal with who are on contract for to explore that project for installation of materials.
And then the last project was the microphones for this council chamber. Last meeting, when I had to do it remotely, it was just so hard to hear people at different times. And I understand from Omar there was a bit of a hiccup where the person who would be rigging it with microphones and cameras wanted some sort of down payment, but that's not our process. So, I mean, maybe Susan wants to speak to it. I think you could see by the theme of my questions is if we could really kind of push these things. But, Susan, if you want to say something, but this is also that, I'm using my time with you, Jimmy, so indulge me.
So we're looking at the proposal and the bid spec that we have to deal with. And we are going to be making a call this week to the CFO of the company because they want a down payment, and that doesn't agree with what they're supposed to be doing. I think is it under a cooperative? I can't remember. Yeah, it's under cooperative. We have to follow the rules within the cooperative as how to the lead agency put together their specifications. There's nothing in there that says that we are required to provide a down payment. Usually under the local public contracts law, when the job is done, then we pay for it. But there are situations like with road programs, things like that, where there's progress payments. But that's not the case here, so we're going to make a call to them.
Thank you.
Okay.
And the camera thing, do you have anything?
So I'm still very short-staffed. That's one of the things that I really haven't been super diligent on moving forward with, but when the chief gets back, I have all the capital in, things are moving along, ready to hire someone in my department. So I think that will be the next thing that we really move forward with.
And just so you know that there are many cameras listed, but the top line one would be the Rose Garden area because that was the most time sensitive.
Okay.
Okay, we're all good with questions for Jimmy? All right, thank you, Jimmy. All right, the next is correspondence from Mr. Album regarding his open sidewalk over on Birchwood. Is the resident here on Zoom?
No, he is not.
He is not, okay.
No, Mayor, so this is the first step in the process where the resident is requesting that the council hear an appeal. So it would be up to you all to decide whether to hear the appeal and then also to set the date for such appeal. And as you all are aware, that would require him to get the 100-foot notice list, send out letters, etc.
Is this a no-brainer one? Something that he said in the cover about the 26 Birchwood receiving permission to remove their sidewalk. Was this something that came to the
Yes.
council? This was the one last year?
This is the one that you have approved. It's the next one.
Seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, honestly, this one looks the same as the last. I don't see where it would have led to. I'm not sure why it was. It was strange. It's like this literal sidewalk.
We're not making a decision tonight because there is the public process of the hearing.
Right, so we have to go through that process.
You have to go through
So the question is, does the council want to hear this matter?
Correct, and I believe Omar was in touch with the resident to ask what date they're available to come. So perhaps Omar could.
So the council is willing to hear this matter?
Wait, do we have to hear the matter?
Yes.
Okay, then.
No matter the answer, no matter what the answer is, we can answer it tonight, but we still have to meet.
We're clear, we have clarity on that. Let the resident know.
Because you have to give the neighbors the opportunity to come.
Gotcha. Fair, that's fair.
Omar, are you clear on that?
Yes, I'll send a letter to the resident.
Okay. We're going to open up the meeting to public comment. Audience members wishing to speak will have a 3-minute time limit to address the governing body on any items on the agenda. Large groups are asked to have a spokesperson represent them. Omar, is there anyone in the chambers here?
No, there is not, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I know. All right, is there anyone online who looks like they want to speak?
No, Mayor.
No mayor?
Yes.
Oh, I mean, no Omar? Okay. I'm going to close.
No mayor either.
I'm going to close public comment time, and we're going to move on to consent agenda. Are there any questions for the consent agenda regarding resolutions 23-222 through 23-235? Vanil.
Yeah, just on 23229, that's the authorized estimated property tax bill. I'm wondering if Susan can come up and just kind of give us a little bit of the lay of the land with, how much our increase was, how much the school board's increase was, what the total amount is, all of that.
Susan, you coming up?
Yeah, I just want to give the resolution. Okay, so that was the actual number for the school tax that we will be paying them from what we collect, went from $71 million to $73 million. And,
what kind of an increase? Okay, and how much was ours? The municipal?
ours went from 24.6 million to 25.1. Ours increase was about 2%.
And the school was how much?
2.8.
And so the overall increase was about 2.4.
Yeah, 2.90 for the whole thing. But remember, I estimated the count, because I don't know what that's going to be for the strike rate, which won't come out until July.
What do you think it's going to be, what we've heard, is it going to be around this number, do you think?
I estimate and take a conservative approach. So the 5%, I think, so far that's what I've done every time I've estimated, and I've been very close with the number.
So you've added 5% to the current tax levy, and that's how you came up with 112.
Right, and that's the
Because we're at 106 plus the 5%, which is 100.
So it has to fall between 104 and 114.
That's 73
Schedule that you
million.
have to divide by, because you have to go to division. So we're within the parameters of where the dollars have to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions on the resolutions? Okay, can I have a motion, please, to approve resolution 23-222 through 23-235 only, please?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Have a roll call, please, Omar?
Councilmember Dayton?
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Menon?
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels?
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Okay, could I, excuse me, questions on resolutions 23-236 through 23-239, anyone, please?
Sorry,
Julie, please.
a question for the library roof replacement project. I just wanted to, confirm that, so this is to enlist engineering services, right? And what this means for our friends of the Tenafly Library. I just thought maybe we could get some details about it. Maybe from Jimmy?
Jimmy, you want to respond to that? Questions about the engineering proposal for the library roof?
Especially because we have so many
And what the
people
status is on that?
who are curious, yeah.
Yeah, so now this will authorize Andy and his team to, for the professional services for this project. The good part is that most of it's already done because we already went out to bid. So they will just need to update, some of the dates in the specification, just some other minor items, and then they get be out, for bid. So, I'll communicate with their office, let them know, once we get the certified resolution, we let them know what projects were approved and to move forward. So, we should, I'll get a timeline from them. This will authorize them to move forward with to adjust the bid specs.
Thank you. If you could communicate that to them, that would be great. Thank you.
Venu, please.
And so if it goes up over the 500,000, we can adjust that accordingly from what we have?
So if it were, I assume you mean if the bids that are received exceed the amount that's
Right,
appropriated, then yes, you have the opportunity to reject the bids.
But do we have the opportunity to increase?
That would have to be a budgetary discussion to see whether the monies exist. So, really, the way the statute's written, there's only certain circumstances in which you can reject all. You can always choose to not reject it.
Okay.
Okay. All right, if there's no other questions on these resolutions, could I have a motion to approve R23-236 through R23-239, please? Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Could I have a roll call, please? Omar?
Councilmember Dayton?
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Menon?
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels?
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Next is ordinance 23-14. We're amending planning board fees. Omar, can you please read the confirmation of publication of the ordinance and the title?
Sure. Ordinance number 23-14 is an ordinance that was published in the May 28th edition of the record. It's an ordinance to amend the Article 6 fees of Chapter 35 Land Development Regulations of the Revised General Ordinances of the Borough of Tenafly, 2004.
I'd like to open the floor for public comment on ordinance 23-14. Omar, is there any member of the public here in the chambers?
No, there is not, Mayor.
There are no any members of the public on Zoom?
No, Mayor.
Okay, I'm closing the floor for public comments on ordinance 23-14 only. Councilman Park, would you like to make a motion, please?
I move to pass and adopt on second and final reading ordinance 23-14, and that notice of same shall be published according to law.
Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Omar, can you please conduct a roll call?
Councilmember Dayton?
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Menon?
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels?
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Does anyone have any old business?
Oh, yes. The RFP for for Green Spot, this is more to Wendy's question. I just could you update everybody on those EV chargers?
So that's with me, I'm working out on the contract, but I do actually want to circle back with the committee on some locations based on the recommendations made by Brightview, with the potential closure of Piermont where the bus stop is. So we may need to just regroup on that quickly, because that was one of the anticipated locations.
So Jimmy, I'm not sure if you heard that. Maybe we could set up a call for that for us then, to just get Wendy those answers. And when Jimmy, you heard that?
Jimmy, if you could set up a call with the EV committee, which is Dan and Julie, to speak with me and you, so that we could go through just the finalizing of the locations.
Okay, so you want to set up a meeting with the EV committee?
Yes, just the committee though.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you for the reminder.
Just got to
Okay.
get that done in the fall.
Any questions about the minutes of May 9th closed session and May 23rd closed session?
So this is, you're approving the meeting, and it's just as a general reminder, when you close session meeting minutes, you're approving it as to form only, however, they would not be released to the public as those matters are still ongoing.
Okay.
But just in a matter of, for Omar to keep record, then he knows that once it's completed, then it could be.
There's no links.
Sorry?
No, there's only a link to an packet. It's just.
Right, only if you log in through your credentials.
Right.
It's not available to the public when those matters are ongoing.
Venu, please.
So, I was just going to say that I've received a couple of comments about the minutes not at the regular meeting and not being out, in a timely manner. And, people having to see things 3 months later, that sort of thing. So if there's any way to...
Okay, could I have, yeah, we asked for a motion. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of May 9, 2023 closed session and May 23, 2023 closed session as to the format only?
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Covered for the good of the order. Any upcoming meeting issues anyone wants to bring up? Okay, new business, introduction of ordinances. Okay, the first one is 23-15 amend bond ordinance. Councilman Grossman, would you like to make this introduction?
I move to introduce and pass on first reading ordinance 23-15 and set the hearing for June 27, 2023 at 8 p.m. or as soon thereafter.
Have a motion, please. Motion to be seconded, please.
Second.
Okay, Omar, could you please read the title of the ordinance and conduct a roll call?
Sure. Ordinance number 23-15, bond ordinance amending bond ordinance 23-10, finally adopted on May 23rd, 2023, in order to provide for the purchase of an automotive vehicle by the Borough of Tenafly. Councilmember Dayton?
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Menon?
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels?
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Thank you. Introducing ordinance 23-16, Public Works Supervisors Ordinance. Councilwoman Dayton, would you like to make the motion to introduce?
I move to introduce and pass on first reading ordinance 23-16 and set the hearing for June 27, 2023 at 8 o'clock p.m. or as soon thereafter.
Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Omar, could you please read the title of the ordinance and conduct a roll call?
Ordinance number 23-16, an ordinance to fix the salary, wage, or compensation of the employees of the Department of Public Works represented by the Tenafly Public Works Supervising Bargaining Unit for the calendar years 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024. Councilmember Dayton.
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman.
Yes.
Councilmember Menon.
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels.
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor.
Yes.
Councilmember Park.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 23-17, we're going to amend the plumbing subcode fees. Councilman Menon, would you like to make this introduction, please?
I move to introduce and pass on first reading ordinance 23-17 and set the hearing for June 27, 2023 at 8 p.m. or as soon thereafter.
Have a second, please.
Second.
Omar, could you please read the title of the ordinance and conduct a roll call?
Ordinance number 23-17, an ordinance to amend the plumbing subcode fee, section 10-1.3 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Tenafly, 2004. Councilmember Dayton.
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman.
Yes.
Councilmember Menon.
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels.
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor.
Yes.
Councilmember Park.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, committee reports, we'll start with Councilwoman Dr. O'Connor, please.
Okay, so for the Board of Health, the Mid-Bergen Regional Health Commission now has a satellite office that they're setting up on Westerville in Tenafly, so for next year. And so that's a very exciting opportunity because James Fedorko, who's our representative, he is going to be there a few times a week as well. There's a new health educator named Sarah Bombino, and they're getting the office set up there. And our health inspector, Ruby, at the meeting was also just reminded to recheck all of our food establishments to ensure that they all properly display the choking poster, what to do if someone is choking. This is part of the inspection process for licensing, but we definitely wanted a double check. I mentioned also about the Spotted Lanternfly grant, and so I'll be having a follow-up call about that. The Environmental Commission wanted to just let you know that we are getting very close to a composting pilot program. We'd be the first borough to do that. We're going to be looking for 100 families. It should be rolling out shortly. It would be about $15 a month for the families to do, and it's a 6-month program. And we need to get I have a lot of people who come to me asking, to compost, where can they compost? So I think there's a lot of interest. But we're just getting a few fine-tuned ideas to this, like a couple of things. DPW director has been on the meetings with us. But I just am going to ask fellow council members to please just start promoting this, see if you know of people interested in composting, because it will be a pilot program. It would be a very exciting thing for our town to be first. It would be with a group called Neighborhood Compost, which is a place in New Jersey, and they would take it and use it on their farm, but they would do all the hauling, so it's pretty exciting.
I was going to say maybe talk to the garden club.
Oh yes, I'm going to promote it there too, for sure. And I'll be with them on Thursday, I think. Over 100 trees are set to be planted at the Tenafly Nature Center. We're waiting for the nursery to source them. Luckily, it's not too late to plant them. For some reason, it's just taking a while for this nursery to have these trees that the Nature Center asked for, a very specific type of trees going with their plan. But that is part of what our tree fund is funding. So I wanted to let everybody know about that great news. Over 100 trees to go there. And the DPW did plant over 25 trees throughout the town. You might have seen the truck, might have seen trees being planted in front of different houses. This, again, just to remind everybody out there in Zoom land that you can always sign up and see if the area within 10 feet of the street is able to have a tree, and the town would plant it there. There are a few sites at MOM that are in the final planning stage, too, of getting some trees. The COVID Memorial Committee, Councilman Menon and I, just reminding everyone that June 25th at 10:30 is a ribbon cutting, but we are just, excited to have some place that will be a place that everyone can visit. The naming committee just had the ordinance that you reviewed, so Wendy has that direction. And my last committee was Stigma-Free Committee. We've been successfully tabling at town events like the Senior Health Fair and the 5K. We've been partnering with teams in town who are doing projects to promote mental health, and we're hoping to have some content for the town website shortly, which I'd give to you, Omar, which will include county and state mental health resources. We're going to be a community night, and so I'm just really glad to have been part of this group that's got that up and running again. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Super quick first, most important, you guys didn't make it to the senior center, so Councilman Grossman, for the pancakes this past Saturday.
I had a representative there.
It was amazing. You actually had a surrogate there. It was impressive. The best pancakes. So huge thanks to the Tenafly Eagle Scouts. Actually, this coming Saturday at Mount Carmel, they're doing a car wash. So if anyone needs a car wash, I believe it's Saturday. Eagle Scouts are raising money there as well. Last time we had a chamber meeting. Huge thank you to the Spring and John for hosting, for Corey and the Promenade for fun treats. Great. Again, I've been doing this for a few years now. More than 25 people literally had to bring in extra chairs. The variety, the diversity of the folks that were there, different types of businesses, people. There's a big push to grow the chamber, so all are welcome. Had great conversation around where their priorities are for the town, what they're trying to do to help our businesses, and then obviously speaking about the events. but just really incredible energy, actually, that I haven't seen in some time. So thanks to the chamber there, and that's about it.
Thank you. Councilman Bennett?
And just going back 2 months for the zoning board adjustment, there was an application to request construction in the front yard of a 6-foot black picket-style metal fence, which is 80% open in a zone where 4-foot, 75% open fence is permitted. And this was requested by the applicant for security purposes and to deter golfers. The fence will be hidden by arborvitae and other similar plants that are already on the property, and the application will be approved.
Can I ask you about that? Because I know the neighbors across the street, and they felt that the fence was going to be too close to the street. Was there a discussion about that?
So there was a discussion. It was originally, I think, going to be 10 feet from the road, and it was pushed to 20 feet from the road, so it was pushed back closer to the house. And then, from this, it was fascinating, while seeking to build a 643 square foot addition, the applicant originally came in last month with a request for front yard setback, impervious coverage and front yard driveway coverage variances. And following a discussion in the prior meeting for the need for a circular driveway, the applicant requested a continuation, came back this meeting, and they revised the request, and the driveway variance is no longer being requested. The other two variances that were being requested were approved by the board.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Davis?
So I have 2 wonderful days to talk about community events that took place this past actual weekend and in conflict with each other. So the first, of course, is I'd like to thank the Tenafly Nature Center and its staff for Nature Day. I'd like to thank the Hudson River Keepers. They brought up canoes, and so everyone was boating out on the newly cleaned fishers, which was wonderful. And thank you to Deborah Davidson and her team for running a really wonderful day, very interactive with lots of kids. And of course, the second day I would like to discuss is our Pride Day. Thank you to all of our community and our surrounding communities for coming out and marching and being part of this day. It is becoming more and more significant as all of the surrounding communities are starting with banning books and vitriol against students and against their own community members on LGBTQ+ issues. Our Tenafly Pride Committee, headed by Natalie Kavanaugh, Dory Kavanaugh, Scott, JP, the Hart families, Chad Coleman and his wife Jolie, everybody pitched in to create a day where people were welcome. Thank you to Mel's Butcher Block for supporting and helping to fund. She got a DJ in the center of town, and so thank you. And I implore my council, if there's anything that you are going to continue after my time, it is this day, because so many families came up to me and said, we have nowhere to go in other communities. Even our next door neighbors, Bergenfield, they are not holding a Pride Day. People will raise a flag like Westwood, and yet people were getting harassed left and right for putting a Pride sign on lawns. So this day is more and more important, especially for our youth, to have a safe space, to be accepted, and to fight the fight. So, again, such an important day. I was very thankful to be part of it. Thank you to everyone. We had many of our religious institutions, and the JCC was there, Temple Sinai was there, our churches were there, and so thank you to all of our community who came out and was part of that day as well, and here in Tenafly. And those are my committee reports.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Jeff?
A couple of items. some sort of order here. So, starting with HPC, which met last Thursday, one of the discussions that we had, and this might actually end up falling out on the same weekend if we have that Oktoberfest, is that Sunday, HPC would like to have a formal naming of the train station. We never did that. We renamed it Elizabeth Cady Stanton, but we never actually held an event. So it would be a formal naming. One of the possibilities is that Elizabeth Cady Stanton's great-great-granddaughter loves to show up at these things, so she might show. We can also get a reenactor from upstate New York who does Stanton, and then we could do continuously through the day the walking tour that the HPC put together, and this would be on a much broader scale than local. And this is women's rights, this is honoring someone who really was key to the women's movement, so we would do this on a more state or even regional scale, invite people from all over. So it would be an awesome event if like to make that happen. The other thing, Tenafly presents. We have our concert set. We have about 8 to 10 concerts, I think 10 concerts set for this summer, starting July 8th when we have fireworks, and we will have Divinity Rocks doing her children's album, which was nominated for a Grammy. Yeah, it's a very family-oriented concert, and we want everybody to come out to that. I think we also are going to be able to get School of Rock there, so it'll be a double-bill concert with School of Rock, Divinity Rocks, Rock and Rocks, and then fireworks. We are close to our fundraising goal. We have come back from where we were before. We used to raise about 15, 16,000. We went way down during COVID. We are now closing in on 19, but the target is minimum 20. So we're close if there's any sponsors. And this is something actually Councilman Michael, not asking you for money, but if there is a way that the concerts can be used, since we are bringing hundreds of people downtown weekly, the Chamber of Commerce should be able to partner with this somehow and benefit if they want to have restaurants do, special picnic deals on Tuesdays for the concerts.
Yeah, I'll definitely speak to John in the chamber, that'd be great. The other thing, just a reminder, if they ask you if you could help as part of the 3 events, there's music.
Yes.
The first thing was Councilman Grossman knows it the best. So if you could help us with the music.
I absolutely be happy to.
Yes.
So that's on the funding side and the music side. The other thing I wanted to mention, because we have so many different township committees, we have Pride and Welcoming Committee, we have Stigma Free. I see no reason why we should not have, in addition to our sponsors who can sponsor a particular concert, anybody who donates over $1,000, any business, they can pick the concert, first come, first serve, to sponsor, and they can put up tables, put out literature. I think we also should have our township committees are more than welcome to come, set up a table, put out information. And so if you can do that. Open invite to the respective committees, and we're not asking them, obviously, for donation. That's inappropriate. Even library, all of them should be coming and promoting. They are township things, and we have people there.
So we're charging for the promotional tables and all that?
No.
What?
The only thing we charge for is our sponsors.
Okay.
And sponsors can pick a concert. No, the township committees, I want to come. No. Oh, no, don't get me in trouble. Just clarifying. So that's for Tenafly Presents. That would be my big ask. Planning board did meet. I don't remember if we've met since, but at the last meeting of the planning board, they did approve 112 apartments at the old Benjamin Brothers site.
112.
112.
112.
And reducing the commercial or the real estate footage from well over 20,000 square feet to 2,400 square feet. With one of them being, one of the three stores, one of the stores being 400 and something square feet.
Pretty close to impossible for a job.
Jeff, do you know what the bedroom distributions are? That's
I
four
couldn't
floors.
find it. I
No,
don't
it's
have it.
not 3 floors, it's not 4 floors.
You know, I'm just asking for
It's
your.
one of 4 floors.
I have it.
That has different zoning.
So there's nothing, this is not outside.
I'm sorry.
the zoning law.
All right, so,
This counts, wait,
I voted no, and I can explain what I based it on, if that would help.
yeah.
I based it on, there is a building coverage in that area of, I forget the exact, it's 60-something, I think 65% building coverage. Now, currently there's close to 90%, they're bringing it down to 79%, that's still over. So based on that and the intent, in my opinion, the intent of the law of having first floor retail and 2th floor residential is to have retail, but this minimizes it to the point of vending machines.
So there's
So
no
on those
retail?
two,
There's no store.
well, there's 2,400 square feet total over 3 stores, with one of them being 480 square feet, which, to me, that's the vending machine store. I opposed on those grounds, but the rest of the board did not, therefore,
That's insane.
it was
It's
passed.
the zoning requirements. It's within the boundaries of the zoning rules.
It doesn't mean that it's correct for our community. Do you know the density of our community? If
Well, this
you
area
folks on the
doesn't-
planning board cannot actually find a
So
way,
that's a question for the council.
then our council needs to take a look at this. Because this is around the corner from me, and I can tell you, I know we're not allowed to discuss schools, so I won't.
Does the council have any say?
The council can set the parameters in which the planning board operates. We set the ordinances. And if they are gonna have an ordinance that says retail on the bottom, and then the planning board disregards it, or finds a 480 square
Clarity
feet store,
purposes, the planning board didn't disregard anything. They met the requirements of the ordinances. The ordinances don't say percentages or ratios or
And
anything
maybe
to that.
that's what needs to be changed.
Right.
Which is why I am bringing this up and why I voted against it and why I'm bringing it here. We do need to look at that. Because we can end up with that happening at any of the sites downtown.
we cannot accommodate the high density for 112 new apartments in that corner. In our town, when we're already getting 4 new buildings downtown, there's already proposals for a lot more coming. If we do not fix this ordinance, our town as we know it will no longer exist. You are going to over-densify, talk about traffic. How about trying to get to school with 112 new families?
Well,
In my corner.
First off, the planning board can't get into the issue of schools at all.
I'm talking about traffic. Let's just talk about traffic, density, commuting,
Well, there was a traffic.
environmental impact.
There was a traffic study, which I, again,
Oh,
know where my vote was. So I said that this traffic study, 112 apartments, I think they said something like, there will be 12 cars going out at the morning rush. And I said, of 112 apartments, many of which are 2 and 3 bedrooms, you're not getting 12 cars.
Getting
240.
Wendy, can you send us the ordinance that we're referring to here about when something's mixed use? If I'm understanding the mayor correctly, that could be 99% of one and 1% of the other.
Correct, there are no ratios.
Correct. Can you send us to the council the ordinance and highlight that area and see if, then it's just up to the council to bring, the council person to bring something forward and get a vote, correct?
Of course, yes, the council is the one that has the ultimate decision as to zoning ordinances.
I will implore you, Mayor, as a member of this planning board, who I've seen vote these things up again and again and again. No,
When people are meeting their requirements of the zoning laws, you can't just reject things constantly. It doesn't work that way. Right?
I question,
The council chooses to change the ordinances, that's, these ordinances have been there for 60 years. It's not like they just appeared.
Actually, Mayor, I think this particular site is one of your affordable housing overlays, so
There
it's
you go.
likely that the density and whatnot was all part of the affordable housing agreement that you did back in,
It is in the overlay.
so I
Is
believe
what,
this
is
is,
by
I believe
overlay
this,
sites in town?
if I'm not your planning board attorney, I didn't see the application, but I have worked with your plan, and I'm fairly certain this is one of the overlay sites.
It is.
And so as long as they meet the requirements of the overlay, which is, I will certainly send it around, there is very little you can do, because you will find yourself on the back end of a lawsuit on the affordable housing.
Correct.
I'm willing to take that lawsuit. I'm willing to take that lawsuit for our density of our housing.
That's very admirable, but every time he takes it, loses. And they
Dumont, Danglewood Cliffs,
Not every
just
single town.
off the top of my head.
We are not.
Dumont.
We could theoretically want to building coverage is over. That's a violation.
In
But
general,
the density would go.
and let's understand it better,
Same thing with Danglewood
I'm
Cliffs
not
and
saying
Dumont.
buying it,
I know that potentially, building coverage.
and I don't know if it's you, I don't know if it's actually the mayor. I would love to be more proactive in,
Before you go any further, I think that might be a different discussion that
Yes.
perhaps would require an attorney-client, closed session discussion.
And put it on.
I don't know.
I absolutely want to have
I
a
think-
discussion.
I don't think you're discussing what he's discussing, but I think where you're going may be something that we would,
I don't know.
want to discuss in
we
closed
just
session.
need closed session all day long.
Your favorite.
So just a
Estate.
question,
Add to the next.
But I will certainly,
Right.
pull up the affordable housing overlay for that particular site and send it out to the council.
but additionally, I think Councilman Michaels was asking for that ordinance about the mixed use, right?
No, that's the affordable housing.
Oh, it's the same thing.
It's
No,
not-
no.
I'm looking
It's
for-
different, it's
So
not
you're
the
not
same.
looking for the,
No.
what, I'm sorry, just.
Different questions.
Two different-
One is the ratio of
Yeah.
retail space to residential.
That one.
space.
So the zone that this particular development.
No, everywhere.
is not, the only-
We know it's not subject to that. We're talking,
I'm not trying to fix something that is already.
yeah, that's done.
I'm looking to, I
Future.
think it's
Exactly.
all time work. I make lots of mistakes, I try not to make the same mistake twice. I'm looking not to make the same mistake twice.
So the areas where it is first floor commercial, upper levels are residential, those areas are only commercial on the first floor. So that's your business one, business two districts, it's only commercial, you cannot have residential without a variance on the first floor.
Oh, so Jeff, does that answer the question then?
The site that Benjamin Brothers on, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Councilman, but
Okay.
that is a different animal because it's an overlay zone.
Right.
It is not a residential zone in its underlying zoning. It is a separate zoning that was placed on top of it as part of your affordable housing settlement agreement.
Well, okay,
So it's actually an SRB zone, which is senior and business zone. It is zoned that way. That is the designation, even with the overlay. It has to meet the requirements of that. So what?
This is family housing, not senior, right?
It is, but it's designated, actually should have been senior housing because that's how it was designated originally. It's the overlay that gets it out of the senior. So what happens is you have a lobby, you have a common room, you have maybe a little tiny gym, and you have a place for a size nothing coffee shop, all on the first floor, and a mailroom. Therefore, on the first floor, there are technically no residents.
Right.
Then the second and third floor have residential. But by adding the lobby, the mailroom, and everything else, and having the building cantilevered out over parking, your first floor, as I said, one of the three buildings has 480 square feet of retail, which probably is smaller than the council chamber by far.
Orders of magnitude.
So the orders of magnitude.
400 is New York City. 400 is 20 by 20.
Right. So technically, and that's what we really should be looking at is there some ratio? Is there some number of square feet of retail to the residential? Something so that this doesn't keep happening, that we keep having a closet space and saying, okay, we've got retail, we comply.
Those are the questions to be answered.
That's really the question. And density becomes a whole separate issue because of the overlay, but yes, it's something, and that's why I couldn't use density, but I could use, building coverage, and that's what I would have.
So there's 3 buildings with 112 apartments.
Total,
Yes.
I don't think anybody's thrilled about that.
All right, I have one more thing to add to my report.
Go ahead.
Nothing, something light. I wanted to add something light. So we were talking about the Tenafly Nature Center before, and I just want you to know, because I do like to bring stuff to our town, like the concerts and trying to bring this stuff with HPC. I just want everyone to know that this Friday, the 7th grade class from Rochelle Park, New Jersey, are going to the Tenafly Nature Center for their field trip this year. And you'd never guess who suggested it to them and kind of urged them to go. So if you go up there during the daytime, you will see all sorts of my students. Do not be frightened. But it is a way of supporting the Nature Center and making it known to other towns.
Yes, it is.
That's my report.
Okay.
Last Tuesday, the middle school CAP, SRO, and REC had their cottage party, and roughly 145 parents showed up.
It was great.
It was, great event, and kudos to all of them for just chugging along with the program again.
Oh, can you actually say to them, the 7th grade and the 8th grade in the middle school that are 7th and 8th grade now, never got the cottage parties. It was COVID. And so maybe try it again with all of those ages?
It's a 5th grade, 6th grade transition cottage party. It's parents who have questions.
They never got it, so they don't even know, some of the parents don't know about our incredible teen center and the programming
That's a good
and stuff.
point.
And so that's one of the things I know Jamie talks about during that.
Yep.
So just bring that back. Same thing, Adam. Right, Adam, same thing for the rest. Maybe bring that up. Like our year and the year above us didn't get that introduction.
Okay. We're going to skip the mayor's remarks tonight in the interest of time. So can you read us the closed session language, please?
Yes. When did this come on?
What?
When did the closed session come on? Monday. Or Sunday.
Adam's favorite.
Go ahead.
I promise it was not a long.
No.
Resolution R23-240. At a meeting of the mayor and council of the Borough of Tenafly, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, held on June 13, 2023, the mayor and council of the Borough of Tenafly has deemed it necessary to go into closed session to discuss certain matters which are exempted from the public. Be it resolved in compliance with NJSA 10:4-12, the mayor and council of the Borough of Tenafly are going into closed executive session to discuss the following. Collective bargaining, the PBA contract negotiation update, and matters falling within the attorney-client privilege that are real property related. Minutes will be taken of the meeting and released to the public at the time that the matter is resolved.
We have a motion to go into closed.
So moved.
Have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you, everybody.
I knew I never could, know that I can't find nobody else as good.